let us move on. We are delighted. Return to the show, Louisiana Senator Mr. John Kennedy, a member of the Senate Banking Committee. Senator Kennedy, it's always great to see you, sir. I mean, look, Powell, why can't Powell say it's prices that are the problem? Why does he have to go after the economy? I mean, I would think that scares the heck out of, ordinary working folks. They kind of see this headline. They're not monetary experts, and they're saying, why is he trying to destroy my job? I don't understand Powell at all.
Well, let me try to simplify this. 2 points. Number one, we will not get President Biden's inflation under control until we attack the problem on the monetary side and the fiscal side. We're doing it on the monetary side by raising rates. Congress has to do its part on the fiscal side by reducing the rate of growth of spending and the rate of growth of debt accumulation. Point two, here's what Chairman Powell knows, but he can't say because he doesn't want to roil the markets. Chairman Powell is raising interest rates to try to slow the economy, to tamp down President Biden's inflation. How do you measure that? You measure that through the unemployment rate. Since the 1950s, we have had 10 instances when inflation was too high and we had to get it down. In every one of those instances, those 10 circumstances, in order to reduce inflation by 2%, we had to raise unemployment by 3.6%. Now, inflation right now is 6.5%, and the unemployment rate is 3.4%. So do the math. That means, based on history, going all the way back to 1950, if Congress doesn't help, in order to get inflation back to 2%, the Federal Reserve has got to raise interest rates to 10.6%. Am I recommending that he do that? No. What I'm recommending is that Chairman Powell speak frankly and tell the people what he knows, that he needs help from Congress, and that if we will reduce the rate of growth of spending and the rate of growth of debt accumulation, that will take stimulus away from the economy, and Jay Powell won't have to put millions of people out of work. He won't have to raise rates. But he's going to do it, Larry. Jay Powell is not going to go down in history as the Federal Reserve chairman who let inflation get out of control. He's serious as 4 heart attacks and a stroke. And if he's got to raise rates to 10%, I believe he'll do it.
Well, so, Senator, okay. There's a couple of things you said that I really like, and there's at least one thing that I'm not sure about. But let me go to the, which isn't bad for you and me. But let me go to the likes. Okay, the Congress, according to the CBO, the official budget scorekeeper, as you well know, so the Congress is on target next 10 years to cumulatively increase the budget deficit by $20 trillion. $20 trillion. And borrowing, of course, the debt increase will follow suit because spending has grown enormously in the last couple of years. Now, your point is very important, and I think Jay Powell should say publicly, I need help from a Congress that will restrain and limit spending. Remember, Senator Kennedy, I was around in Washington working for Reagan, but I've watched Paul Volcker and Alan Greenspan, 2 pretty good Fed chairs. They both publicly almost, created deals with Congress and the White House to get spending and deficits down. And they did it in a very public way. And I think Jay Powell ought to say that. Jay Powell says he's in love with Paul Volcker. I once worked for Paul Volcker. Volcker was Reagan's Fed chairman. Volcker was, publicly said, get the deficit down. That's what Jay Powell needs. He could get some help there.
Well, Paul Volcker defeated inflation, but he didn't do it alone. Paul Volcker told President Reagan, he said, look, Paul, Mr. Volcker, am going to do my job. I'm going to raise interest rates. But he said, President Reagan, you have got to help me on the fiscal side. And Reagan, after his initial tax cuts, as you know better than I do, became a fiscal hawk. and he lowered deficits. And so we attacked it, the problem of inflation on the fiscal side. Congress spent less. And on the monetary side, Volcker raised interest rates. Now, if President Reagan said, I'm not going to help, I'm just going to keep spending money like it was ditch water, Volcker would have gotten inflation under control. But Lord knows how high he would have had to raise interest rates, which puts millions of people out of work. And none of this is complicated, as you well know, Larry. And Jay Powell knows that everything I'm saying is true. But he's got to be careful what he says. He doesn't want to roil the markets. And he doesn't want to get caught in the middle of a policy fight between the Democrats and the Republicans about whether we should reduce spending. I appreciate that. But at some point, I shouldn't put it this way, but Chairman Powell needs to go to Amazon and buy a spine online and stop worrying about the politics and getting between Democrats and Republicans. And he needs to tell us, what do we all need to do? Democrats, Republicans, Congress, the Federal Reserve, the President, to get President Biden's inflation under control. And if he's honest in his answer, he's going to say Congress has got to reduce the rate of growth of spending and debt accumulation.
Yes, totally right. See, on that point, you and I are in absolute sync. And you know what? You have these big shot jobs, okay? I've been there. I've never been Fed chairman, but you're a leading senator. Just, it's, what do I want to say here? Just tell the truth.
Yeah.
Jay Powell, I know the guy. I had lunch with him every few weeks for 3 years. He's a smart fella. He's not necessarily a monetary expert, but he's a smart fella. He's got common sense.
He's smart. He's very smart. And I supported Jay Powell unequivocally. And he knows what you and I are saying is correct. He just doesn't want to say it.
That's right. That's the key point. Just get up there and say it. I need help from significant reduction and I like your rate of growth of spending. That would be sufficient because over 10, 20 years, you'd save a fortune in borrowing and so forth. Just say it. And you know what? He'd be a damn hero, Senator Kennedy. He would.
Yeah, he would. Yes, he would. And look, I'm not asking him to weigh in terms of Democrat versus Republican.
Yeah.
I'm just asking him to answer the question straight up about what we need to do right now. And he knows in his heart and his head that if he has to get Biden's inflation down alone, he's going to have to raise interest rates through the roof.
Yeah.
If Congress will work with him, he won't have to raise rates so high. He needs to say that.
Yeah, I'm with you, sir. Very good. It is such a pleasure, Senator Kennedy. Thank you very much for coming back on. We appreciate it, sir. You take care.
Thanks, man.
All right, coming up.